In a tiny park at the borders of San Francisco and Daly City lies evidence of the last duel in the U.S. This huge landmark in history goes unnoticed by nearly everyone, so it's time to bring it to light. California became a state in 1850, just after the gold rush. It was an extremely quick process. Most states go through a territory process, but California statehood was reached in just 2 years after acquiring the territory from Mexico. There are a few reasons for this, one being the discovery of gold made the state extremely wealthy overnight. It became the 31st state of the nation. It was also part of the Union in the Civil War. Although the actions of the Civil War seemed worlds away, it greatly affected the West Coast. The Union depended on California gold to fund their battle against the Confederacy, although over 16,000 Californians volunteered to fight in the Civil War. Ties to families on the East Coast were still close despite the physical distance. Prior to the Civil War, emotions ran deep towards slavery, even in California, where there was no slavery. David Colbreth Broderick moved to California from New York during the gold rush. As a young man, he was active in politics and ran as a Democratic candidate for the U.S. representative of New York's 5th Congressional District in 1846. After he moved to California, he became a California state senator from 1850 to 1852. He served as lieutenant governor and was part of the Anti-Lecompton Group, an anti-slavery Democratic group, which was in the minority in the Democratic Party. He worked hard to balance the different factions that ruled San Francisco politics as well during this time, which was not easy. The city was filled with corruption, and he was able to maintain a working balance between them. Broderick never shied away from a debate. The big debate in Washington at this time was whether or not to let Kansas into the Union. The debate was dominated by pro-slavery factions. The popular opinion was against slavery because the settlers wanted to access as much land as they could, and slavery would hold on to much more of that land than a non-slave state would. Broderick debated pro-slavery Senator James Henry Hammond from South Carolina in an emotional and sometimes angry Senate session. Broderick read part of a poem about power in this session. The power that linked with success, assured and kept with skill, that molds another's weakness to its will, holds with their hands, but still to them unknown, makes even their mightiest deeds appear his own. Thank you for watching Hidden West. If you could give this video a like and subscribe, I would truly appreciate it. The debate raged on and, of course, led to a full civil war a few years later. But before it did, the emotions sometimes unfortunately boiled over. David S. Terry was born in Kentucky, but his family moved to Texas when he was young. He studied law and got his law license in Galveston. Terry fought in the Mexican-American War and then traveled to California in 1849 for the gold rush. He opened his law practice in Stockton, California. In a special election, he filled an open seat in the Supreme Court in California. From there, he served as Chief Justice of California. Terry once stabbed a political opponent in 1856, so he was one not to be taken lightly. The California Gold Rush brought all sorts of people from all over the world west, as you may have guessed. It brought both Northerners and Southerners, as well as freed slaves. Thousands of people made the arduous journey to the Golden Gate to look for their fortunes. Even in California, far away from the southern plantations, people had strong opinions about slavery. Free soilers were those who were against slavery, and shivs stood for those pro-slavery folks. At the time, the Democratic Party was falling apart over slavery. The southern part of the party was pro-slavery and wanted to secede from the Union. The majority of the Democratic politicians were pro-slavery at that point. Broderick was highly upset by this and saw his whole career disappearing. Broderick had a huge rivalry with the other California U.S. Senator William Gwin. The president, James Buchanan, had told Broderick that he considered Gwin a friend. He forgot to tell Broderick that he was also a friend. Or maybe he didn't forget. We don't really know. It didn't make his mood any better to read Chief Justice David Terry's words from a speech at the state convention. Terry called Broderick a disloyal Democrat. Broderick saw a friend of Terry's and called the Chief Justice a miserable wretch. But Terry was not a man you wanted to anger. He carried a huge knife, known as a Bowie knife, and he was known to use it, as we said earlier. Terry believed that a portion of California should be given to Southerners and open to slavery, maintaining a class-based system. Broderick was the son of a stonemason and hated this idea. Broderick's words quickly reached Terry. "I now take the earliest opportunity to require of you a retraction of those remarks," Terry wrote to Broderick. The two men wrote back to each for a time, exchanging notes, more threatening as they went along. Then Terry proposed a duel. They decided upon dueling pistols on Monday, September 12, 1859 at 5:30 a.m. on a farm next to the Lake House Ranch, which is a location next to the Olympic Club golf course. Even today, this location is pretty far away from nearly everything except private homes. I visited it recently. It took me 2 different buses, and I still had to walk over a mile each way to get to the site and to get back from the site. I can't imagine how long the trip would take if you went by horse and wagon. It would just take hours. Even though it was such an early hour, there was a big crowd that gathered. Duels were illegal per the state constitution, so the sheriff arrested them. The judge let them go, and they decided on the next day to do it. The next day, sheriff couldn't be bothered to show up 2 days in a row, so that's when it happened, because he just didn't want to get up early. The 2 markers are not the original ones. Those were placed in the 1940s, replacing the ones from the 1910s. Standing there, you understand that the markers are not that far apart. The 2 men turned and walked 10 paces. As Broderick raised his arm to fire, his gun went off early. The bullet hit the grass a few feet from Terry. The judge fired and hit Broderick in the chest. The senator died at the home of Broderick's friend, Leonidas Haskell, in what was now called Fort Mason 3 days later. The house still stands. It's called Haskell House. The military base at the time was called Black Point. Abraham Lincoln won the presidency as a Republican, and he won California easily. David C. Broderick is buried at Cypress Lawn in Colma. Terry, hated in California, left the state and returned to Texas to study law, but then joined the Confederate Army. He returned to California, living in Stockton, and practiced law. He had a disagreement with the circuit judge, Stephen Field, who sentenced Terry to 6 months in jail for contempt after Terry scuffled with deputies. Terry and his second wife had a chance encounter with Judge Field. Terry, unarmed, slapped Field and was instantly shot by Field's bodyguard. Terry is buried at Rural Cemetery in Stockton. Now check out this next video if you would like to see more.